Okay, thank you. And once again, welcome. It is now 4:55, and we're going to move into our community of the whole meeting, Park and Recreation and Public Safety. It is Tuesday, February 9th, 2010. Again, 5:55 in the afternoon. 4:55 in the afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Burgess. We'd like to open the meeting. Would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Burgess.
Here.
Councilman Lobos. Councilman Maldonado.
Here.
Councilman Shelley.
Here.
Councilman Williams.
Here.
Vice Mayor Waldman. Mayor Bateman.
Here. First item on the agenda, committee of the whole meeting is presentation, item A, charter school presentation.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, with
Yes,
your
sir.
permission, I would like to, if I may suggest, I need to pull item 4B out of the agenda. I didn't see a section on additions or deletions, and I apologize for that, but we need to pull that item because it pertains to an agreement that we have with K-9 unit with the Miami-Dade Police Department, and there is a minor issue that we need to correct before we bring this back to you.
Okay.
So
Any
I'll
objections?
correct it before.
Any objections? Hearing none. Okay. We move forward. Item A.
Thank you.
Please take the podium, Mr. Hage.
Thank you, Mayor Bateman and council members. My name is John Hage. I'm the president and CEO of Charter Schools USA. Charter Schools USA operates the Keys Gate Charter School here located in your city. We also operate schools across Florida for 16,000 students on behalf of boards, including municipalities, and schools across Dade County, including the Renaissance Charter School Board. I'm here today on behalf of two boards, both non-for-profit, 501c3 approved boards. I'd like to introduce a few other folks that are here to support in this discussion and here for questions and answers. Ed Pizzuali, who's our counsel from Tripp Scott. I have Scott Woodry, who's here on behalf of Red Apple Development, who's helping with this project. We have Omar and Hank and Dan Fee, all members of different disciplines in the development process. Most importantly, though, I'd like to point out that I have the chairman of the board of our Keys Gate Charter School here, Corey Gold, who serves as a board member for that, chairman of the board. And I also have Peggy Wells here as another one of our board members. And we have our principal, Robin Sandler, who does a tremendous job as the principal of the Keys Gate Charter School. And yes. And we definitely do have some parents and some community members and some folks that represent different housing associations and other leadership throughout the city. If I might, I think it would be important to give a little history for the council, since there's new members on the council. 7 years ago, the Keys Gate Charter School was developed partly in many ways due to the generosity of Wayne Rosen and Michael Latner, who in fact, and Wayne is here today, where they actually donated land under a long-term lease for the purposes of $1 a year, for the sole purpose of a charter school. So at no profit to themselves, they provided this land. The school was then built and developed by a separate organization from ours, and then leased back to us and the board to operate the charter school. So we do lease that property in that building. The board does not own that building, and that school has been hugely successful. Over the last 7 years, the school has operated not only at an A level on the FCATs, but it has also performed so well that the 1,100 plus students that are in the school today, there's another 1,000 plus students on the waiting list to get into the Keys Gate Charter School. I think it's been a real addition and positive point and central educational opportunity for this city, and we're really proud of it. So thank you. We also represent the board of the Renaissance Elementary Charter School, and that board is also a nonprofit board, and that board oversees schools throughout Florida, including the the Renaissance Elementary Charter School in Doral, which I think the city manager recalls from his days there, where that school is the top performing elementary school in Miami-Dade County of all schools, all public schools, as a charter school. And that school has received for the last 6 years an A+ on its FCAT scores from the state of Florida. It also received last year the prestigious U.S. Department of Education's award for the called the Blue Ribbon Award, which is the highest award that can be bestowed on a school. It's only bestowed on a handful of schools every year across the state, and we were the only charter school and the only school in all of Miami-Dade County last year to receive that award. So on behalf of those two prestigious boards and the schools underneath them that are high-performing A+ schools, I'm here to present today a concept that has been, quite frankly, 7 years in the making. When the Keysgate Charter School was first opened, and we were there hiring the teachers, getting the school operating, watching the little kids come in their new uniforms, one of the things I remember is that we were sitting there and we looked across the street to the park, to the stadium, and we said, wow, why is that land sitting there? Why is it empty? What is that baseball stadium doing there? And no one's using it, and who owns it? And wouldn't that be a great place for the continued development of an educational village, an academic center that literally this city could be very proud of? Over the next several years, in different reiterations and iterations, we tried to bring forth different ideas to, in fact, do something to, in fact, build a high school. It's obviously been a very big issue for this city and for the parents of the city to ensure that there's high-quality public school options for the parents in this city. And so that when good options are there and high-quality schools are in a community, parents have a choice. And they're not just stuck with the only school that's available to them. They're able to ensure that the schools compete for the children, which is very important so that they can start to raise the standard and come up with innovative ways of educating children. And that's one of the concepts behind this idea. As you may know, with the idea of a high school in hand, we brought before, in the past, under a different administration, the idea of a school on Kingman Road to the direct north of the current Keysgate School. In fact, we went so far as to actually buy the land. It was zoned for a school. In fact, the school district was preparing themselves to go after that piece of property and to build a school themselves. We purchased that land, we own that land, and we were well into the process before the elections to develop that land for a new school. That school would have been another K-8, and then next door we had additional land we were attaching to it to add the high school. We felt that we needed another K-8 at the time to produce enough 9th, 8th grade students to in fact ensure that the 9th grade would have enough students to make it financially viable. It was a pretty tough process for those who were here during that time. And I have to tell you, since the new administration has come in, the vision and the working relationship has been much more positive. In fact, it's been based upon an open approach to what's best for students, what's best for the parents, and what's best for the community. So with that in mind, we were challenged and by our board, we were challenged by our parents, and we were challenged by the new administration to come back with a fresh, new look at this plan. In fact, where would the school go today if it was based on the best location for the school, not based off of where it was zoned for the school or where the land was already owned for a school or what political process has already pushed it towards a certain place, but where would the parents 20 years from now, 30 years from now, say this was the right place for the high school? Where would the students benefit from the idea of having an academic village sharing resources, sharing recreation space, sharing sports complexes, and really regenerating economic vitality into the city. And when we did that, one of the things that we came back to was that there were different options in different areas for the school, including the industrial commercial park, which obviously has been discussed. But what we realized as we really looked at this, and when you see the vision, you realize that the best place for the school is for this concept to be brought to the non-H-use property that is to the to the west of the baseball stadium, which is outlined in the overhead above. In fact, as you know, and just to kind of position everybody here, the H-use line comes directly really across what is home plate and second base, and it kind of runs across there. During this process, we have in fact met with the Air Force and their representatives, and during that meeting, which was also with the Vice Mayor who was in that meeting, we laid out these ideas. And not to speak for the Air Force on this, and we will be asking them for a letter to support what they said in the meeting, but they could support this location for the new high school, especially with the concept of where, and we'll lay out in a minute, it can be located on the very southwest corner of that quadrant, which actually would position it about the same distance away as the current school is from any H-use lines, and in fact is outside the H-use and would not be an issue for national security or safety. So let me first lay out some of the structural reasons why this location is superior to all others. And let me tell you, we've looked at every possible location in this city for the last 7 years. One is we truly believe as we walk through this that the traffic, which is always a major concern, is not only better here by resolving it, but it actually will help resolve traffic for the long term for the existing school and for any future school growth in this quadrant, based on the opportunity to provide long stacking lines over a large distance and to pull cars off of Kingman and off of Palm Drive and create a much more low impact to the traffic. So we'll talk about that in a minute. It also helps because this area allows for the school to collaborate and have a joint use of fields, of baseball diamonds, to add new fields, and we'll talk about that in a minute, how the idea would be to build 2 new soccer fields, football fields, for the community as well as for the school, and have a joint use of that. And so the joint use wouldn't just be for the educational facility between the elementary school, the middle school, and the high school, but it would also be a joint use between the city in the school. And what that would do is produce for the city an opportunity to have enhanced facilities that they could use in non-school hours. It also brings to life the use of the sports complex, and the pink elephant, as I've been told, is what it's kind of known as. And even though this proposal doesn't make immediate use of that, we have some ideas that we'd like to talk to the council about with the possible use of the sports complex, understanding that there's still ideas that the city has for the sports complex potentially in the near future as well. It also would allow the project to be financially viable. And if anyone is in the development world today, you know that great ideas die at the bank if they're not financially viable. And this is a project that I can tell you in phase 1 is financeable today. In fact, we have the resources and the financial commitment today to build phase 1, which we'll outline in a minute, of this project, which would open the high school this August. So what we would be able to do is guarantee that to the city and the process. It also doesn't take commercially approved, currently viable land and take it off the tax rolls. As you may know, a charter school is a public school. When it is operating as a charter school, it does not pay ad valorem taxes, therefore it does not produce taxes for the city. Commercial land, if we were to use that and and produce a charter school there, it would in fact take it off of the city's and state's tax rolls. And so this leaves commercial land in its best and highest use for commercial purposes in the future, and uses what is parkland that has a low use and uses it for, in fact, what is a purpose that we believe will be viable, and that is, in fact, a public school. It also produces a higher safety zone. One of the things that you'll see as we lay this out is that there's a pattern for how parents can drop off children. If you have a 3rd grader, an 8th grader, and a 9th grader, you're able to go through, and we can stagger the opening times and closing times of school to reduce the traffic load. You can drop off a child at one school, and then 20 minutes later, they can drop them off at the second school. They can have a pre-and-school and after-school program so that if you want to drop them off at the same time, and it allows for parents to come through and drop those students off in the most efficient manner. As you know today, in fact, we use a police officer from the city of Homestead for the stacking across the street on your property, and this would also allow us to continue to use a full-time police officer, but then converting that police officer to a school resource officer, which would mean that they have the ability during the school day to be on site at the high school and help out with the kind of police support and training that they do in high schools today, including good training on law enforcement support, drugs, interdiction, things like that. And it also separates the uses. It makes sure that the school is not spread out over too many areas. If you have a high school up the street and packed in with traffic there and another whole traffic zone here, you can't create an overall plan to both make it the most safe area for parents, also the most traffic sensitive and the lowest impact on the community, and it also eliminates our opportunity to share fields, gymnasiums, food service, busing, and a lot of other things that make this project viable. And lastly, we believe that this will create something of significant value for the long term for Homestead, and that is an academic village that ultimately can spur growth even to the higher education. We believe that because of the number of students that we would be graduating out of the high school, that higher education institutions will take notice of this and look to potentially locate a southern campus of their universities and community colleges in this area because of the number of students that are now available to them to do dual enrollment in 11th and 12th grade. So we think there's additional benefits beyond this. At this point, I want to kind of outline the basics of the proposal that we are putting forward today. As you can see, there's sort of areas that actually naturally quadrant out on the land area, the space. On one area, you have to the bottom right, obviously, what is the former dormitories. And those dormitories obviously have not been in use since they were built, except for a small area and the top area that is, we have handouts here also of the same picture that's on the overhead. And I don't know if you have a pointer there, Scott? Thank you. So right here are what were originally designed as dormitories. Having walked through those dormitories, and I don't know if you've ever walked through them, it's kind of scary. They're in pretty bad repair, okay? Disrepair. There's roof leaks, there's all kinds of critters living in there, and except for this small area here in the front where the FOP has used, these dorms are basically unusable. I understand that maybe some folks recently for one of the baseball games. Why don't we put it down here, Scott, just a little bit so they don't block the view. If they want to do this. Okay. It's okay. You can just put it right there. And what we found is that these are about 45,000 square feet, give or take. And these three buildings actually allow, and there's a connection here in the front, to be pretty easily convertible, ironically, into classrooms. In fact, we have a layout that we'll show you in a minute where each of these areas can be put into classrooms, and Scott will walk through how we can convert that very quickly. And this would allow for this to be open this August. In other words, this is something that can take place now. In fact, the charter that we have approved through the Renaissance Foundation is actually approved to open this fall. And if it's not used this fall, we will have to we will no longer have that charter. The school district does not confer that charter past a one-year deferral. It was meant to be opened last year. The process that we were going through with the city at that point for a different location did not allow that to happen, so we deferred it for 1 year with the school district, and we are now proposing, and the school district is aware of our discussions, that this would be the beginning of the high school. And I say beginning because it's only a temporary home for the high school. The idea would be you cannot build between now and July fast enough to get a new high school open. But you could, and we would, renovate this so that we would have approximately 700 students, of which 300 would be ninth grade high schoolers this year in the school. And what this would allow is the Keysgate School right here, Keysgate Charter School, to take some of these 6th and 7th graders, these 7th and 8th graders, and have them come over here along with the high schoolers, and it allow them to add some more students in the elementary grades in the current Keysgate School. And what this does is two things. One is it gets our high school open this fall. And number two is it starts to separate the older kids from the younger kids, which we know is always a good thing from a safety and a long-term parental satisfaction basis. So this is approximately 5.53 acres. This includes the parking, and we'll show you in a minute how this can be built out. Right here to the north of the property is another 5.19 acres, kind of roughly laid out, and this is along the fence line right here, so it doesn't encroach upon the stadium. And it's this area that right now is a worn-out field that is traditionally used, as I understand, having spent a lot of time here recently, as kind of a makeshift soccer field. It doesn't have, it's not fully flat, but it's semi-flat. It needs upgrading, and what we're proposing is that we would have a license agreement with the city. The city would continue to own all of this property, including this property. We would lease the dormitory from the city land, and we would license this property under a dual use. We would improve it and add 2 football/soccer fields to that property. Go ahead and grade it, put in the appropriate sod, put in some goalposts, and then during non-school hours, these would be fields that would be open to the full community and to the public. And we think this is a good use of the fields because then we would maintain them, and it would be a benefit to the city's residents as well as a benefit to the school, of course, during school hours for soccer and football. We would also ask to have use of these ball fields to the east that are not fully shown on here, and that would be just during school hours to ensure that there was training facility space for the high school baseball teams. We do this in cities across the state, and there's a form of sharing and agreements that have been well vetted out and are pretty typical to this process. To the west side here, you have what is a 6.65 acres of flat land that today is and has not been used for any viable purpose. This would be the property whereby Phase 2, so Phase 1 opened this year. Phase 2, within 24 months after this school opens, with a permit, which we will go through how that process needs to be done with the state, which we believe is a process that can be done within a timely manner, probably in about a 6-month, give or take, time frame, and the experts here will tell you about that, to get this approved to build a high school, and that high school would actually lie with as close to these roads as the setbacks would be allowed, and we would show you some sketches of how that would work. And what that does is two things. One is, during our discussions with the Air Force, they felt this was the best plan to keep the students the furthest from the AQs, because if you look at the line right here to there, we measured that, it's actually further away here than here when you go diagonally across from the building. So you'd actually not have students any closer to the AQs than you do today, which is well outside the line, several hundred yards, and it's both good for a noise barrier and obviously for long-term safety. So we would actually have on the inside the area for parking, and I'll have Scott in a minute kind of walk through that, as well as where the parking can go right up in this area. We'd also improve this for parking use. That would be joint use again under a license agreement with the city, your land. We would improve your land, use it for parking during the daytime for the high school, for occasional evening events. But when the baseball stadium is used for new events, which we think there's real possibility of that, as well as for overflow parking for the racetrack, this could be a great new parking space there, opportunity, as well as it could be converted someday to even other things, such as a university, potentially. You can see something where even a vision 5-6 years from now, a 90-day community college or others might look at it as a southern campus, especially if they have a high school next door that's feeding students into their school. So just to give you a piece of the vision, that's possibly where things could go. So right here what you have is about 11 acres of what you would call school property, and then parking, fields, and then we'll walk through all that. That out of 90 acres on the non-IQ's land, that would become high-value land. One thing I think I missed is, once this high school opens, the permanent high school, that would hold approximately 1,800 student stations, 9th through 12th grade. That school would allow us to use this converted building, which we would build in such a way that the classrooms would be able to add small cutouts. We'd have the plumbing already done so that it could become a preschool center. There are no preschool centers in that area. There's a real need for that. Ms. Sandler, our principal, has a love for the little kids, a big extra love for the little kids. She just always pushing me, John, what about the preschool? So this would be for your 2, 3, 4, maybe even kindergarten area kids, and gives them a safe zone. We'd have it fenced off and available for their own play area here. You'd have your high school here. You'd have what is an elementary school here at that point, your 1st through your 5th grades. And then one thing we've talked to Mr. Rosen about, who owns a lot of this land here, including this property here, is down the line, maybe in what we call phase 4, this could actually also be converted into what is a standalone middle school attached to this, so that traffic flows could be permanently dealt with here. But as we know, right now, traffic right now comes in up here, down and around, and stacks right here on this property. Police officer sits here and lets them in, so there's no blocking of the road. And this would allow the traffic patterns to be built around the property. Again, we don't control this property, we lease it, but this would help us control the entire property here down the line. So the net effect of this is that there would be approximately $40 to $50 million of new construction investment made into this community. The city would immediately reduce its carry costs for any of these properties. We would still want to talk about potential long-term viability of this, and maybe even have an option if the city never did not come up with a deal to sell this property or to do something. We think we have some ideas that would make it viable, especially with the high school being there, and produce a high-achieving, high-academic environment. At the end of the plan, the idea would be in the basic business terms of this plan that make it viable are that land is always a problem in getting charter schools developed. It's historically a problem. We have cities across the state have donated land to help get a school open in their communities. We have developers who have actually donated land. We have a piece of property, for example, in Hollywood, estimated in value of almost $3 million that was donated by a developer to get a school there because they wanted to have that economic vitality to ensure that, that they would have people coming there, traffic coming there, creating jobs. It helped them sell their condo units, etc. We understand there's a public value issue here. So one of the things that we've done in this proposal is we've gone back and tried to understand what are the best interests of the city, what is the best interest of the school, and what is the best interest of the overall community in that area. What we are proposing is that we would actually lease this property and have an option to take down a lease on this property with a license agreement for this property and this property per the outline of what we just described, and we're going to give you a handout in a minute and our attorney can walk through the basics of the proposal. And under this lease, the city would lease to us at a nominal dollar a year rate the land. And I know that's probably like, okay, well, it's good for the city. Well, first is, I think, we need to understand that we're going to invest $40 to $50 million in a brand new building on this land. We would also guarantee the opening of the charter high school in August, in writing, including the financing that we have to do it now. We would produce 2 new soccer fields / football fields, which would be available in August once school opens for the community in non-school hours. The plan would create over 300 new permanent, high-paying, educated, quality education jobs in the community, not speaking about the development jobs, which we would make a best effort to hire local labor for the construction of these projects. We also believe that this will help impact the housing community in this area because of the several hundred new jobs which would be brought to this part of the city. And we believe that Keysgate's strong reputation, academic performance, the Keysgate Charter School, will draw interest for post-secondary education institutions. And we would resolve all traffic issues and stacking for that entire corridor through this plan, which we'll walk through in a minute. And we've also set it up in such a way that, hearing the community in the past, that at least half of the seats that would be coming into this school, give or take, would be new seats, not from the current Keysgate Charter School. These would be new seats available for any resident that applied to the school. So these would not just be seats for the existing 8th graders that are in the school. This would produce new seats for the community available immediately.
John, let me ask
Yes, sir.
just one quick question.
Yes, sir.
That's a good point right there.
Yes, sir.
What about military? Do you have a special provision?
It was my next point, believe it or not, Mayor.
Sorry.
It actually was. Priority will be given, and this is something that we checked with the state law and Mayor, would be given to families that serve at the Air Force Base. So assuming there was 300 seats available and 20 parents at the Air Force Base chose to put their child in the school, those 20 seats would be given priority under state law, which is allowed for those families, students, to attend that. And that was a real plus to the military when we talked to the colonel. So yes, sir, that would be there. It would also take non-tax generating, non-performing land and generate jobs and investment while leaving high-performing tax generating land to continue in the future to be available for best use and highest purpose. It also would, we would also put into the contract a best effort, and we've already been working with that effort in place today to bring in local labor for the construction of these schools. I had an important point, and then I went off the point. The bottom line with this project is that at the end of the day, we want to create a value for the city. So what we felt was the right thing to do, and this is a proposal that we're making for the first time to the City of Homestead that we've never made before to any other entity. At the end of the debt service of the land, if we were to lease the land, let's say, for example, 35 or 40 years based on the length of debt service. If the debt service was 35 years, which, by the way, one of the debt service vehicles that we're looking at, which is tax-exempt bond financing, which the boards would own these properties. This would not be owned by a for-profit company. This would be owned by a nonprofit board of directors, would be that at the end of the debt service, when the buildings are paid off, we would deed the entire buildings back to the city. So that at that point, we believe the value at that point would be in excess of $100 million to the city. And we're prepared to do that because we believe that this is the right time and the right place to get this deal done. And if we don't believe it may never happen. That's really where we're at this point. We've been working on it for 7 years. It's been very difficult. The markets are tough to get financing in. If we're able to get the financing done for the permanent school, the benefit to the city would be 35 to 40 years from now, depending on when the debt service ends, that the buildings and the improvements would be deeded back to the city, as long as the city obviously continued to lease them to the school for the purposes of being a school. Obviously, we don't want to see them be converted into something else. And what this would be is a major public benefit back to the city, to its residents who have put taxpayer dollars into keeping this property the way it is. So we believe that this is the kind of value that the city can be proud of. We feel proud about it because we believe that this is in the best interest of the school and the students and, quite frankly, the state of Florida. So thank you.
Thank you. Questions from council? I have a few, but I'm going to turn to my colleagues first. Go ahead.
I just want to say it was my privilege to facilitate the meeting with the military and Mr. Hagan. I'm going to say that when we first walked in there, we were all a little intimidated because the last thing in the world you want is for the military to say no. And but they were great. Would you not agree, Jonathan?
Yes, ma'am, they were great. I'm sorry, I was just telling Scott, they were. I was a former military officer myself, and I thought when he came in and the first time we talked to him, he's going to make me drop and do push-ups.
Yes, yes.
So
Colonel account, he has that way that, you know, he's a little, he can be, he's a sweetheart, but he can be a little intimidating, but he asked all the questions, and you had all the answers, and I've been on board with this since day one, so I'm very impressed with the presentation.
And I want to publicly state on the record, and Mayor, Vice Mayor Wallman, you might not have heard this earlier, that we have been highly encouraged since November with the opportunity under the new administration to move forward in an expeditious way, ensuring still the best interests of the public and the school, and ensuring a project plan that would make sure all parties are a part of that. We've worked with the community. We have leaders here from the associations today, and I have to tell you, at this point, everybody's been just really great, and it kind of makes up for some of the history, which now at this point we're just focused on the future, and we really do believe this is the right time to create a high-quality school, a high school for the city.
Nice presentation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mayor, quick question.
Yes, Mr. Burgess.
To the manager, I guess, do we have any, because I know the FOP has their lodge out there, do we have any obligation to them, a contract, or what do we have with them as far as anything holding them up, as far as moving that we need to make sure is taken care of?
Well, our next step would be to look into existing contracts or leases that we have with this and that involves this property, and work that into an agreement, that he's referring to. So, you know, whether it's FOP or whether it's the racetrack, whatever the case is, we will make the adjustments, and we'll bring it back to you with all those questions answered and the right logistics built into them.
And I just want to mention, Councilmember, that yes, we noticed that they had their place there and they fixed it up kind of cool and walked in there. And, but there are, we believe, opportunities, for example, even in the stadium itself at the bottom floor there that has similar space that's unused. There's some locker rooms in there, areas that might be partitioned off or something. I don't know if that's viable for the FOP. We obviously are friends of the police and ourselves.
That's why I wanted to make sure, you know.
Yes, sir. We hire one full-time every day for us.
Yep, and I
does a
thank
great
you
job.
for that.
And so that I think might be one of the only small stickler issues, but I think it can be worked through. And we definitely want to work with the police department to ensure that they have a new location for their FOP office.
And if I may, the reason why I placed this item on the agenda is because I know, Mr. Mayor, it's been your top priority from day one you spoke of the charter school, the need for new school sites. Councilman Maldonado's taking on the education component as well. I know it's in everybody's best interest to move on with this project, and I saw it that it got to a point where they were ready at least to come to you and give you, a status as to where we were. There is some work to be done, of course, in terms of agreements and things like that to make sure that, the operations that we have, that we're currently conducting, or the agreement that we currently have, can coexist. But it was the best opportunity at this time, to bring it to you. I think they've done a lot of homework, and it was a good timing for you to know. This has been your priority, so I wanted to make sure that you send the message across.
Thank you.
Ms. Lobos, did you have a question?
No, thank you. I did not request the floor.
Anyone else before I speak? I've spent 3 months off and on with Mr. Hage. This has been a priority of his, and it became a very well-known priority of mine during the campaign. There were, without a doubt, hundreds of people who reached out and talked about the missing high school component, regardless of where it's going to go, where it was going to go at the time, from Kingman Road up next to, across the street from Northgate, right next to Eastlake, I think was the original site that you owned, to the Park of Commerce, now to the baseball stadium. Regardless of what location it was, this is a piece of the puzzle that this town is missing, and missing desperately. I support your presentation tonight. I support your effort of hanging in here, a couple years now. I hope it moves forward. I think it's the right thing for the community. I look to Richard, our attorney, to cross the T's and dot the I's, and of course get the best deal for the city. But at the end of the day, I think the best deal for the city is education, bringing quality education to our community. I sit in many, many meetings throughout this community prior to being the mayor, and I listen over and over again. And Sue Newman, I know you do too, and as well as the hospital can't attract the proper doctors because the high schools aren't there. The air base can't attract the proper people because the high school component is not there. We hear it over and over and over again. Well, we have our opportunity, ladies and gentlemen, so let's not let it slip again. I hope that you'll get with the organization and move forward. I hope tonight this council gives at least the nod to move forward to negotiate this. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am, and I appreciate it. Thank you. And we hope that you'll be able to ask and direct the city manager and the city attorney to work with us and bringing back to you an actual agreement in the near future. So if you could, if you're so inclined to direct them to do so, we're obviously eager on a short timeline here to move forward. We have a lot of pieces in the puzzle that have come together, and financing and construction and all these things still have to take place. So we appreciate your support tonight.
Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Williams.
I have a problem with the process. I do. Now, I haven't met with this group, but I've got some issues. And hopefully, Mr. Manager, since you put it on the agenda, you can be able to answer some questions at another time, but I do have some major concerns. So whenever it's appropriate for you and I to sit down, because this is the first, to put it on the agenda. I got an email yesterday to add this, so, I'd like to, have a problem with the process.
I'll be more than happy to meet with you at your convenience, sir.
Mr. Maldonado.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I know that you brought some staff here. Would any of them have, I heard you make mention of the traffic solution that I know has been one of the concerns of the communities, and any community, even where I live in Waterstone. We have a school there, and I see the traffic working okay for that area, so I know it's a concern for all the residents there. Would you have any information currently, an overview maybe of something you've worked with that you could share with us?
Yes, sir. If you want to give us a few minutes, we'll just go ahead and talk about that right now.
Sure, no problem. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of the council and staff. I brought some boards. I have really 3 more slides to go through, but I know that some of the print is a little small.
Could you give your name and address for the record?
My name is Scott Woodry with Charter Schools USA, 6245 North Federal Highway, Fort Lauderdale, Florida. If you'd like, I can give the boards up there, so if there's anything you can't see on the overhead, you'll be able to look at them. And then I'll go ahead and change the slide. The first slide that you see up here is kind of a traffic stacking pattern for the whole site. And what you will see, and I apologize because like I said, it's very small to get it on a board, but what you'll see is at the top of the page, that's Speedway Boulevard or Town Center. Yeah, all your streets have multiple names, but you have at least 3 entrances at the north side of the property where we would bring traffic in to stack in line and queue for drop-off and pickup. They would meander through the site, as you can see, down and around the baseball field, and then we would actually create an exit on East Palm Drive at the south end so that those cars could come in on Speedway and exit on Palm Drive, keeping all the traffic pretty much off of Kingman, which has been the major concern as we understand it. And then you can see on here, I've also included in the area in the middle, that's where the stacking is currently going on for the Keysgate School, and it will continue, and we'll continue to use the school resource officer / police officer to conduct that. But the future plan is still to take that 4.5 acres that's on the southwest corner of Kingman and Palm, and when we expand Keysgate, add an exit onto Palm Drive there as well to get that traffic not only having the ability to come back out on Kingman, but go out on Palm as well, and keep all the Palm and Speedway, I think, are the 2 least used roads in that quadrant of the city most of the time, other than when the race is here. But they're both 4-lane divided roads that can handle a decent amount of traffic, and by utilizing them on the north and south to keep traffic off of Kingman, we hope to resolve any problems there. And then obviously we have almost infinite amount of room across the facility to stack cars on site. What I've shown on the board is only a single file stacking until it gets down, and then this picture here is really a blow up of the dorm area, showing that when the cars get close, they get double wide in stacking, and then shows that where they'll be able to exit out onto Palm Drive. So we hope to keep as much traffic off of Kingman and not exacerbate that situation. Continue to do what we're doing now with the stacking there until such time as we can develop that 4.5 acres on the corner to provide another outlet onto Palm Drive.
Thank you, Mayor. I have another question in reference to the traffic. Maybe staff can help me with this. I know that with our current school right now, with the Keysgate Charter School, I know initially when it was put together, we had a lot of issues with traffic, and with the stacking that is done inside the stadium, it has alleviated that. Since you've changed where the cars come in, have we had any more complaints, any issues in reference to the traffic in the Keysgate Charter, the current Keysgate Charter School? And I would say maybe Chief, I know they have police officers out there, or anyone, even anyone in the community that lives over there that would.
Mr. Maldonado, if I could.
Sure.
Since we have installed a city police officer out there, things have moved, I would say, 100% better. In the past, as somebody who travels that road daily to work in the morning, I would say with a professional out there, things have gone a lot better. So let me say thank you to you guys for that. The one thing that we haven't gotten, though, that I made a request of that night was a letter indemnifying the city of responsibility for you guys using that parking lot. So let's see if we can work on that and get that done at some point, since it has been almost 8 months. But other than that, the traffic has moved a lot better, and I'm happy with the way things are going over there as a resident and somebody that travels that road every day.
Thank you.
Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Shelley. Okay, go ahead.
All right. This is a tough one for me. I'm kind of with
Mr. Williams, is I guess as far as the process goes, this is the first time that the public's had a chance to see the plans and to see this idea. So I'm a little hesitant to kind of rush forward and let's endorse something tonight. Let's give authorization to move forward, because I think that at this point that's what this workshop should be, and that is let's present this to the public, let's present this to the council, let's get some feedback so we can start working together on this process and see where it goes. So I'm a little uncomfortable just rushing off and saying, yes, go forward, whatever it takes, let's get this done. I think we need to slow the process down. I understand there's timelines, but let's make sure it's done right if we're going forward. Now, with all that being said, I'm an advocate for education. Part of my campaign, I want to bring in a charter school here to the city of Homestead, or public school, but charter schools are easier to control, easier to get in a little bit faster process. So in the end, it's going to be a charter school. I'm not sold that this is the best site for this school. I think the Park of Commerce is the best site for the school. I understand there's some issues going forward in there. My problem, and I want to make sure I state it kind of on the record so that you can't say later that I didn't express my concern. That way we all kind of know we're on the same page here. You have a stadium here that, yes, right now is doing nothing for us, but has the potential to be something big, or there's somebody could come in and want to use that stadium. Putting a school on this particular parcel limits the use of that stadium going forward. And so I have concerns from a future perspective. Is this the best long-term decision? And it may be. Maybe at the end of the day, this is what we go forward with. But I just want to make sure that it's well thought out as we go forward. Because you have 90 acres here, and by taking up 10 of those for your school, you're effectively limiting our use of the remaining acreage, because certain companies or certain venues won't be able to take place that they could have otherwise taken place. Where in the Park of Commerce, you're going to take up 10 acres that may come off the ad valorem tax roll, but at the same time, you're not taking away 90 acres that could be sold to somebody and put on the tax roll, or it could be used for something bigger. So I have some concerns there that I just want to make sure are expressed and we discuss. And at the end of the day, I may be the minority, and that's fine. But I want to make sure they've been put out there, and maybe we can work through them together to find a solution. Because I do have some concerns about that, and also about, again, the terms. We're leasing at $1 a year, and we're given as a city, and then we're losing possibly a whole lot. So it's just something I would like to continue discussing with you in a private setting maybe, or then later in a public setting, so we can maybe see where we all stand on things, and not just rush forward and try to get this thing approved and moved, and then look back later and say, wow, maybe that wasn't the best idea. We already built a stadium that didn't do very well, and I don't want this to be compounding the initial problem. So yes, sir. I don't want to be the rain on the parade type guy today, because I'm very for education. I just want to make sure it's done right, and we don't make a rash decision today that we regret later, so that we can get a school in here as fast as possible. That's all. So make sure we do the process right.
I appreciate that, and I think it would be positive for us to sit down in private and go through in a much more detailed way why here versus the Commerce Park or other places, and there's a lot of reasons why. And at the end of the day, we have always approached this process from one whereby it would have to be also in the best interest of the city from the start. We never came into it with sort of thinking this, we're not developers, this is all going to be through a non-for-profit board. We're going to we've positioned every piece of this so that it took these issues in the past that have been there off the table. But when you come back to the vision of this, it actually, I believe, when you look at what happens with the other 80 acres that are left to still be developed, it actually puts life into the 90 acres for the first time. It puts traffic on there that's actually viable, that someone else can utilize for their own purposes. It creates jobs, and it also creates space that's now available. So, for example, if in the past you were limited to sports venues or related things for the stadium, for example, one of the ideas is that if you have a high school that has a large gymnasium, okay, that gymnasium can provide an environment for non-student use in the after hours and the evenings and weekends that might be available and would be available for events at the stadium. So I won't go into it all right now, Councilmember. I appreciate that. I want you to know, though, that the process that a whole team, and this is how we were this is the introduction, is through the committee of the whole. We don't know how it's, that's kind of, there's got to be at some point you introduce it. As far as the rushing part, it feels like to us that it's dragged on forever. I mean, literally, this is not the first or second or the third time we've been talking about a high school and somewhere in this area. It has literally been 5-6 years of discussions. What we're not proposing today is that you approve and sign off on everything that we've laid out. What we're proposing is that we go into a lease arrangement that allows for you still down the line through different approvals that have to still take place for each phase of this to come out, but it gives us the option to start to build upon the vision that we've laid out today. Because once we start on the vision, the long-term outcome is sort of underway. Once you start the high school, it takes root because those kids are now attending that school, and there's hundreds of parents there, and so I'd love to just sit down with you in person and go through that and do that and make sure that my attorney's saying to stop talking. So and sit down with you in person and tell you.
See, I heard that guy more.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. So I would love to do that with you in person and sit down and go through it.
No, like I said, I'd like to kind of be part of the process and go forward from there.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Mayor?
Yes, Ms.
I was just going to say that, this was the original spot years and years ago where they wanted to put the high school, and it just wasn't the right time at that time to do it for many reasons. There were major traffic issues at that time, and so this isn't something that was just thought up overnight. As far as the baseball stadium goes, I was actually going to ask if we could go out for an RFP for the baseball stadium very soon, and I would like to see this resolved before we go out for the RFP so that we know exactly what we're offering. And, if we're offering just the stadium, where is that, north?
That's west.
Sorry. You know what I'm talking about, though. The stadium that way instead of the stadium this way. Then we know exactly what we're offering in the RFP, and we'll know exactly what they'll know exactly what the issues are. So I think that we should at least move forward in discussion, and have a chance to meet with everyone. And do you need a motion for that?
I just have a comment also.
Mayor, I would like to need a motion for that?
To move forward?
Just to move forward with discussion.
No, but I do think that there's a distinction in terms of intensity of activity. I think there was some feeling of move forward this as quickly as possible, and I was thinking about starting to draft agreements and really moving this thing forward. That's one sort of level of effort. If it's just moving forward to discussion, I think you need to be clear with staff as to whether we're moving forward to do this project the way it's been outlined, or whether
Mayor,
it's just
if I still have the floor, my issue is that they're going to lose this license, and that's why there's an urgency here. They are going to lose the license if we don't move forward, and we won't have a school open in the fall.
Right. I mean, I think that the motion could be to direct staff to move forward with this as quickly as possible and bring back agreements to council, which would be on an expedited basis, or if there's some other motion that's appropriate. But if you want us to really move on this, you need to give us direction. The council needs to give us direction.
If I may, I think it needs additional meetings. That's how I'm hearing it on both sides. And I apologize, but unfortunately, I shouldn't apologize. I have to go to a funeral. I was leaving at 5:30. I stayed. I'm going to pass the chair to our vice mayor. Jonathan, I apologize, but I really think that it does need further discussion. It needs workshops. We need to move forward in that fashion. I support it, but I think it needs to be ironed out with everybody. And
That's fine.
I personally kind of caught me off guard when it was put on the agenda last night.
Yeah.
It should have been put on a week ago. And that's not your problem, not your fault. And I'm not upset about it. I just think it's the right thing. It's the right time for it. I think we need to move on it, but we need further workshops, further work on it.
That's great, Mayor. We look forward to working with you further and hopefully coming to a full consensus in the near term, meaning maybe the next 30 days versus the next couple months, if that's possible. Thank you.
Richard, do I need to do anything else formal to
No.
step out? Okay, thank you. I'm passing the gavel here to you. So yours. See you. Thank you very much.
All right, so at this point, then we don't have any thing on the floor.
Can I
Yes,
just
please.
ask one more question before we make a motion or anything? I just want to, I know there's the issue of a timeline here. Do we know what the timeline is what you're looking at? We don't want to put in jeopardy, or at least we want to be aware of the timeline that you have in reference to the charter.
Right.
But so that will give us somewhat of a...
And I'm appreciative of the feeling of rushness, and that's not the desire.
Right.
I'm not a fan of that. But we had to start from scratch to some extent with a new administration, and we have a timeline to deliver a school that has to be built by August, actually July. There's an enrollment process that needs to be articulated. There's a school district that's, quite frankly, very involved in this process. There's 2 boards that are involved in this process. There's a lot going on behind the scenes on this. So we are working and doing our best to ensure that everybody is aligned and a part of the process. So I think by March 1st, we are looking for some direction on this. To give you a certainty, because at that point, if it's going to not happen, then we need to not begin enrollment processes for parents who are going to put their kids in a school like this. We need to stop a lot of other things that are going to happen, including the school district, and we will have to turn the charter back in, and this will at least be a 2 to 3 year process before it comes back. That's basically where we're at today. I'm not doing it that way on purpose. Unfortunately, that's the reality of where we're at. We would like to spend as much time off the dais with each individual member under sunshine rules to answer and work with them to the degree that every single thing can be answered. I can tell you we have thought this through in immense detail. So again, if we can do that starting tomorrow and over the next several weeks, get to the point where there's a comfort zone and answers are answered and questions and maybe issues that need to be resolved or negotiations settled, we'd love to do that, and then get to a place by the end of this month where you could, at least for this phasing, we need to get started. And that's why it's necessary to have some sense of move forwardness on this time. Thank you.
Vice Mayor? Yes. Thank you. I want to apologize to you. I came in at 5, and it's because my calendar said that the first meeting was starting at 5, and so I didn't mean to miss part of your meeting. And previously, I didn't want to speak because I thought maybe a lot of presentation, a lot of information has already been given, and I don't want to have you repeat the information. But I now am caught up based on the other comments that were given, and there's not much information. You know, I do have the map, and so I kind of thought, okay, everybody's getting the same presentation for the first time. You mentioned that it's the first time that you're presenting a school for this site, the stadium. And so I'm going to tell you that over the past 2 years, I've had a lot of meetings with people wanting to put forth their vision for the stadium. And from the very beginning, I am all for, and I get excited when people have a solid vision for the baseball stadium, because we do. It is my commitment to utilize that better than what we have in the past. But all of the meetings have fallen through because everybody's vision needs strong financial backgrounds, needs to have these grandiose plans that just don't have the details that are needed in order to move forward. So I'm going to have an open approach to this like I've had in the past 2 years. Anytime anybody comes with a good idea for the stadium, I am open for it. I'm open for details. I'm open for plans to be presented so that we can talk through and make sure that it is for the mutually beneficial, not only for the applicant but also for the city. And I hope that moving forward that something real develops from this, rather than, like I said, for the past 2 years, just sitting through meetings, listening to people's ideas about the stadium, and we can sit and talk about visions and ideas for the stadium, but until something solid produces from that, it's really just talk to that point. But like I said, I'm open to discussion.
Mr. Maldonado?
No, I have no. I guess my question would be, what would be a motion or that we would want to get this moving forward?
I think that at this point, based upon what the mayor said and others have said, that there needs to be further discussion. So I think you should just direct staff to pursue this with them and to encourage the developers to meet with council people and...
Not developers.
What's...
It's a bad word.
Developer, what?
School operators.
Thank you. Make that better? Okay. Sorry.
Just correcting the word.
I have a question. You had mentioned by March 1st you needed direction, correct? Definite direction by March 1st.
Yes, ma'am. What I would commit to on the record is that we will begin immediately tomorrow. I think I have at least 2, if not 3 council members I need to call and set up meetings with them. And I think as your elected representatives are comfortable, I don't know when your next commission meeting is.
Well, this is my point. How many times does it have to come before council before we get it? You know, this could go on and on and on unless we have some special call meetings, I suppose.
You have a council meeting on the 16th. And what I would suggest is that we move along and at the same time we try to come up with some sort of that you meet individually to address your individual concerns, and we also have at one point or another some sort of workshop so that we can discuss among us, all of us, what remaining issues may be, or other issues that may develop as we enter into the negotiating part or the more intense or deep negotiating component of this project. In other words, what I'm trying to suggest is that we move both things at the same time in the interest of time, because they do have a deadline, and you also have a need to really know what you're stepping into in every detail. So the only way that we can make it happen at this point is moving this whole thing together, and hopefully reach those goals. So.
Councilman Shelley.
The other thing too, it's not only me that, I want to make sure I understand it, I have my own opinions and things, etc. But it's also, it's the public. This is the first time the public has a chance to hear this idea. And so I want to hear from you when I meet with you or when you come back before us here that you've had a chance to meet with the residents of Keysgate, that you've called a meeting in Keysgate or on that side of town, the east side of town, to make sure that they understand that they've seen the plan and you never can get complete consensus, but at least know that you've met with them, get an idea from the residents what they feel. So it's just something going forward. That's something I would like the information. I don't need it tonight or anything.
Okay.
But that's my recommendation going forward.
But I just want you to know we have done a lot of that already. In fact, their representatives from the association are here tonight that we've issued the layout of this plan to them. It's a timing issue. I didn't want to go to the residents too soon before I went to the council. So imagine the tough the situation here. So I don't want to overstate what we're asking for either. What we're asking for is a lease arrangement. There will be processes after that we have to come back as well to the city for approval of additional buildings. But it at least gets us started on the retrofit of the dormitories, which is the critical first step. Second, third, fourth steps can also go over several times as well. So I just want to try to maybe
Okay, Mr. Burgess.
capture that.
Go ahead, you had a comment.
Well, no, I was just going to say that was the main reason that I suggested that we meet with the military before they ever came forward with anything else, because we knew without the military's blessing, I told them, you're going nowhere.
Right.
So that's why we had to do that first, and then the process just came from there. Mr. Burgess.
Thank you. Mr. Hayes, thanks
Yes, sir.
for coming back again and meeting with Colonel McCulley and that. One other thing that I know that's happening on that side of town, which I don't know if it would change the stacking or the entryway or anything like that, but I know the Speedway had been in serious negotiations and is moving forward to the county and maybe even the state with things about changing that road and how Speedway Boulevard was designed and all. I would suggest maybe that you get with them and make sure all those entryways or whatever are going to be used over there are fine, and just get with them, because they're a very vital part to us down here, and I know where they were going with their plan was going to help the city to alleviate a debt that we carry out there every year.
Yes, sir. In fact,
there was some stuff like that, so I just want to make sure that all the parties are together out there, because they're an important part to our our area down here also, and they were looking for some expansion. So
And we have done that connection, and we'll follow through on that. And there's also some uses that they'd like as well, including some additional parking. We think there's an opportunity to collaborate, and have already begun that discussion, so.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Mr. Burgess. Any other comments from?
I have just a question, just so I understand, so I can help facilitate this. Tell me exactly what your timing is. What is it that you need by March 1st?
Well, I guess my question back, I'm sorry, would be, is there another council meeting after the 16th where there might be the workshop and some direction at that workshop, or a council meeting on the 16th that then could come back at some point at the end of the month? Because at that point, there'll probably be multiple forums that will meet both the public, the individual, and the, different processes that you're asking us to go through, which we're fine with. Is there something that at the end of the month the city might be able to do to give us some direction?
I've got
Okay. So schools start, all public schools have to start on the same day. Public charter schools and traditional schools. So that's usually the third week of August, give or take a couple of days. It takes about 2 to 3 weeks for teachers to get their classrooms set up, to get everything into the classrooms, and we like to, that more be like 3 than 2 weeks. Before that, you have about 4 months of full retrofitting time within that building. We've already identified the team that's going to do that work, local support, labor, and moving forward with that. So it backs you up, and you can see where that March, that would be April, May, June, and July. So that March to April is when you begin what is the pre-work, going through the processes for the permits for the city, et cetera, and getting what we need, which is really the process for Ms. Sandler and her team to begin with the enrollment of those students.
So are you saying that you need, if they're going to move forward with this, that you need an agreement signed by the city by when? March 1st?
I think if we could have a direction from the city and a vote from the council by the end of this month, we could probably get agreements done over the next 30 days that would allow us to at least begin the process.
All right, so you need a conceptual agreement by March 1st and then documents approved by April 1st? March 5th. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I know you'll want to work with Mr. Fazwali about this, he's saying that if we could get some direction by the end of this month, then by the middle of the next month, if we could have the simple lease agreements in place, that will allow us to go ahead and begin the financing of the project and move forward with the construction by April 1.
Okay, so the first target date is by the end of this month, you need a conceptual approval from this council. Okay.
Yes, sir, that would be correct.
Okay. So then the council needs to decide whether they need to work what they need in between in order to understand this and be able to give it a heads up, thumbs up or thumbs down by March 1st. So you have, what's today? You have 2 weeks basically.
The calendar up here.
All right, so do we have a motion on the floor to, I'm sorry, who's asking from,
Well, I would like to set up some sort of meeting where I could sit down personally. I just want to call, I believe you, I want to call the colonel, make sure, exactly what their position is.
Look at it in writing as well.
Yeah, and things like that, but I would like to have a meeting. Unfortunately, it would have to take place after the 17th.
all right, Mr. Williams, you had your...
Yeah, just a quick comment. Here's my problem with the whole issue, is the timing. And then now I'm hearing that it's kind of being shoved down our throat tonight with this timing. And I'm just saying that if the demands are, we need it by this time. We have a process. It's a process. We don't have planning and zoning in place. There are a lot of things that we just do not have in place right now. And I just feel that this is what happened when we're rushing to do things. I want to build a charter school, but I want to do it the proper way. And to me, we're rushing. We've got to have it by March 1st. I mean, who time are we on here? I mean, we can't rush this kind of, we can't rush into this kind of work. I understand your challenges and what you're trying to accomplish. I'm right there with you, but at the same time, we are accountable to all of our constituency. So I think, I have a real problem with this. I have a real problem. And I'm not going to be able to rush into something by March 1st. I mean, it's not possible to do that for me. I'm just speaking for Councilman Williams.
Okay, any other comments from council? Mr. Attorney, do we need a motion whether to move forward or not with discussion or with the process or?
I think you just need to, in terms of what you do individually, that's certainly up to you, but in terms of how you, what you're charging staff to do, what you're asking us to do, we need to have some direction to move forward and to try to...
But it's not a motion, though. It's just, we need to just say, staff, we need you to move forward on this. Okay.
Can staff could, or excuse me, Vice Mayor, may I?
Yes, you may.
Staff could look at this and start preparing, or they could give you some documents just so that you guys have a better understanding of what they're looking at too, correct?
Correct.
Okay, well, I believe that we need to put a motion on the floor and decide whether or not to at least move forward with the process, and that seems to be the issue. So
Second that motion.
I can't make the motions. Mr. Burgess make the motion?
You can.
I can? Okay, I made the motion, and Mr. Burgess seconded the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. All right, let's move on.
Mr. Alderman,
Yes.
Thank you.
we eliminated. Oh, okay.
He marked it out. Thank you very much. Let's move on. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the January 12th, 2010 minutes. Can I have a motion,
I'll move
please?
the minutes. from
Motion made by
January
Mr. Burgess, second by Mr. Baldonado. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is tab 2, and that is the amendment revision professional service agreement with CAP Government Inc., Building and Inspection Services, and I will turn that over to the city manager.
Yes, Madam Vice Mayor, members of the City Council, this was an agreement that was initially signed between the city and CAP Government Inc. back in September 21st of last year, 2009. The agreement pretty much outlined that from that point forward, from October 1st forward, the CAP was going to step into the building department and pretty much take over the entire operation. When I stepped into the department as a development service director of the development services department, I saw a lot of value in retaining our building official. There's a lot of institutional knowledge there, and also in maintaining a basic skeleton crew. I did the math. I did a cost-benefit analysis of the whole thing based on revenues that we get from the operation of that department. And I feel very strongly that the best course of action was to go along with retaining that basic crew and acquiring keeping the services of this company, CAP Government, on an as-needed basis, and we renegotiated a fee schedule, which we both agreed to, and that's what's before you today. In essence, what we did was transform that initial contract into an as-needed basis, and where we had agreed to a list of, the different trades have different hourly base structure. So that's what's before you.
Okay. Can we have a motion to do away with the original contract and use CAP on a as-needed basis, and then we'll have discussion after a second? Is there a motion from the floor?
It's actually an amendment to the original contract.
Okay, amendment to, okay.
So is it the amendment's fine? Well, I guess what she's mentioned is, are we doing away with the previous agreement and then
Correct.
changing? Okay, so
This is an addendum to the previous agreement.
I'll make the motion then to.
I'll second.
All right, the motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion or questions? Mr. Williams?
You've already signed the contract?
Yes, sir, because there was nothing that prevented me from doing so, and that initial contract and the wording in the resolution that approved it.
Okay. All right. So, if the contract's already been signed, why is it?
I brought it to you, and my initial intention was to bring it to you as an informational piece. Then I, at one point, decided that it would be best to get your input on it on a general consensus.
All right, any other questions, Mr. Maldonado?
No.
Comments?
Yes.
All right. Pardon me?
I have some other questions.
All right.
You say in your evaluation of the department, have you, is there any reason, I guess during the first quarter, I'm looking at the impact fees, and maybe staff can help me on this. My question is, how much of the impact fees have been retained, that is by state statute, for the department? Because there's certain fees that have to stay within the department so that it runs itself at some point.
We're required by law that, the department should cover its own costs.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's why I mentioned earlier that when I did the math, I made projections based on the history of the department, and we can sustain what the proposed basic crew, and then have some revenue to cover the additional expense of paying for the inspections that we will be needing, depending upon the demand on the construction from the construction industry.
Right, I understand that. My question is, how much has been retained, according to the state statute, amount from that is supposed to stay in the building department? Is there a previous? Let me rephrase my question. In state statute, I think it's 125.56. Maybe you need to get a copy of this, manager. Because in here it says that fees may not exceed the total estimated annual cost, and any unexpenditure balance shall be carried towards the future years for allowable activities. So, or be refunded at the discretion of the local government. So my question is, how much money has been carried over to sustain the building department in this fiscal year, or last fiscal year?
We have been able to sustain our building department within our own revenues. Now, the excess revenue that we've had, I will have to come back to you with that number exactly on a month-to-month basis, so I can give you the exact figure. But the immediate answer is that our building department has been able to sustain itself, and any additional revenues will be obviously spent within that department for the different other needs that they might have operationally.
Okay, all right. I just want to put that on the record so that you're aware that, the building department kind of really sustains itself.
Yes.
When they collect these fees. And so, in my concern about CAP, I want to make sure that that we're following the state statute.
Yes, we are, sir.
You say we are?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
But we have to financially follow the statute, when it comes to the...
So if we're following, then that means you should be able to tell me the amount that we have to sustain. Okay.
Yes, sir. I will be able to provide you those numbers.
All right. Any other questions or comments from council?
Vice Mayor,
Ms. Lopez?
I have a question. Previously, in the previous budget process, it had been projected that the building department would be losing a significant amount of money, and that was part of the reasons that were stated as to why we were going with CAP. Can you tell me, projecting, whether we foresee this happening within the building department, or in your...
I anticipate the department having some minor revenue which will be used within the department by the end of fiscal year, or at least breaking even. The way this contract was initially written was giving away 70% of that revenue entirely to this firm, to this company, and we still had our own expenses for an administrative cost that we were incurring. So we were, I didn't see a winning situation for the city under that contract. I think we have more control of, having the building official. We save money by having our own building official in the first place. We also save money by having some basic clerk positions in place that would take care of the day-to-day basic operations. And we're keeping it to a minimum. And we also save money by the fact that we're only gonna pay for what we need. And that was a negotiated fee. If this company does not, over time, work with the city in terms of adjusting fees, depending on the demand and the way the construction industry behaves, then we have the ability to go out and seek other, or work with other similar companies to provide the same service for a cheaper price, if you will. So, all in all, I think what you have before you is a better proposition for the city.
Thank you. If I can just request, Mr. Acting City Manager, I would like a meeting with you just so that I can understand how it was before and how this is going to benefit the city moving forward, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
All right, any other comments or questions from council? None being, we'll go ahead and call for a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have, let's see, we have removal of water tanks, and that's in an addendum. Mr. City Manager, I'll go ahead and turn this over to you. This sounds like a pretty good thing to me, so.
Yes, Madam Vice Mayor, members of the City Council. My understanding is that we have several times already gone out there for bid on this particular project, and we have not been successful in the sense that the previous propositions stated that the city had to pay somebody to get those tanks removed from our property at the water sewer plant. We failed every time, and whenever we initiated some kind of contact or negotiations with a potential company, we ended up not finishing up the deal or closing the deal. So we have been approached by two different entities. One is outside the city. This one, the letter that I have in the packet, is from Joe's Junkyard, and they are stating that they would, within anywhere between 30 to 60 days, my initial conversation, I think it was, we were talking about 30 days. They added additional 30 days because of whatever could happen. But they would do it freely, entirely free, at no cost to the city. And they would also waive or hold the city harmless of any liability in the process. So I thought this was a win-win situation. We have an actual hazardous biological issue there on that property, and the sooner that we can get rid of it, the better.
Can I have a motion, please?
I'll move for the removal by Joe.
I'll second.
All right, moved by Mr. Burgess, seconded by Ms. Lobos. Any comments or questions from the council?
Vice Mayor, I have a question.
Yes?
So the agreement is for Joe's Junkyard to remove these things for free?
My recommendation is that we go with Joe Junkyards because they are the local ones to remove the tanks.
And so they'll do it at no cost to the city?
At no cost to the city and no liability.
And no liability. Okay, so what we have here, I have the letter. of the intent of what is to happen. Is there a contract that, where we can see under what terms they'll take it, they remove it, so that it's a little bit more formal than this? And the only thing is that I know in the past, a lot of the concerns was the liability in removing the tanks, and that's probably one of the reasons why we didn't move forward. So I have in front of me the letter, but is there anything else that we can see under what terms and conditions this is being removed?
I will work with the city attorney's office to work a detailed agreement to get those tanks removed and be exempt from any liability or any issues.
So Vice Mayor, what we're approving today is to move forward with the contract then?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions or comments? I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next we have tab 3, and that is construction of the Roscoe Warren Municipal Park Phase 1. I've been waiting for this for a really long time. This is money that we've just been dying to spend to do this park, and it's been there for quite a while. So I'll turn it over to the city manager.
Yes, Madam Vice Mayor, members of the City Council, in this case, we have a contract, a proposal that is currently, and this is being put before you in the interest of time because we want to get this park on the way, the construction of the park on the way as quickly as possible. Our attorneys put this contract together. It's currently being reviewed by the contractor. We expect an answer between tomorrow and the day after. And hopefully on the 16th when we reconvene, we'll have a signed contract. If for any reason something happens that we are not able to get an agreement, then I will pull the item. But more than anything, I think it's in the city's best interest to move with what we have and in order to get the construction going. The contractor was selected the right way through the procurement process. This is just the issue of the contract, and if everything goes well as I expected in the next day or so, you'll be seeing this on the next agenda, and we can move forward with the construction.
Thank you. Just want to say that the improvements are planned in 2 phases, and this is the proposal for Phase 1, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Can we have a motion, please, in a second?
I move to approve the construction of Roscoe Warren Phase 1.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, I think Mr. Shelley jumped in there first. Any questions or comments from council? All right, I think we're all glad to see this done. So I'll call for a vote. Please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Makes me very happy. The next one is tab 4. And this one is Roscoe Warren Municipal Park again, and it's the redesign of the stormwater and the gas management system. So again, I'll turn that over to the manager.
Yes, ma'am. This is a proposal that we received from ES Consultants Inc. to provide the engineering services for the redesigning of the stormwater and gas management systems for that very same park. And you know, that's as simple as that. It's going to cost $28,000, and it's being paid by the GOB, the General Obligation Bond that we have in place. So.
All right, thank you very much. Can I have a motion, please?
I'll move it.
Second. Right. Okay, made and seconded by Mr. Shelley and Mr. Williams. Any comments or questions from council? Call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, the next one is tab 5, and that's for the acceptance of the S&P grant. And again, I'll turn that over to Mr. Manager.
Yes, Madam Vice Mayor, members of the City Council. This is for the installation of a precast restroom at Harrisfield and the skate park. The expenditure is an S&P grant for $100,000. We budgeted a matching $100,000. So this is, you know, we needed to move forward and
Yeah, it's
get the
just
project.
housekeeping. Okay, motion, please?
I move to accept the grant.
All right, so I'll take that from Ms. Lobos and a second from Mr. Burgess. Any comments or questions from council? I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. The next one is tab number 6, and, excuse me, this is something that I initiated, and I'm very, very, very proud of it, but I'll turn it over to the manager.
Madam Vice Mayor, I think you know about this one a lot better than I do. This is to support legislation pertaining to the Rails to Trails and the expansion of that project in the lower part of Dade County. Dade County is one of 4 communities that apply for this, and there's a stake. They have like $50 million that hopefully will be funneled, through the county, and to finish this important project. It will tie, the trails, our trails to the the remainder of the county, and I think it's something that we should support.
Yes, I'm very, very pleased with this, and I believe there's several other cities that have done this as well. I think South Miami and anyway, several. But can I have a motion, please?
I move it. I'll
Thank
second.
you, thank you. And any comments or questions for council? I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now we're going to move to tab 7, and that's the Miami-Dade County UASI grant. Mr. Manager.
Madam Vice Mayor, members of the City Council, this is a $30,000 grant. The issue here is the acceptance of this grant, and it's basically to fund two plans. The grant comes from, the Miami-Dade County USAI grant, and it's going to fund those the Comprehensive Emergency Management Plan and the Continuity of Operation Plan that pertains to the city of Homestead. We're recommending, that we accept the money.
Can I have a motion, please?
I'll move it, Mayor.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Williams and made by Mr. Burgess.
There is no matching requirement on this one.
Okay, great. Any questions or
Yes.
comments? Mr.
Yes.
Williams?
Got a quick question. I know that, and maybe staff can help me with this. Who runs our emergency management
Operations?
Yes.
That would be Captain Bull, and through the police department.
Okay. I know Captain Bo is retiring at the end of this month. So maybe, Chief, you can help me with this. Is there anybody else who can do what Captain Bo is doing now? Or can we at some point, because I'm just asking, at some point, I don't know how Captain Bo feels, but, I think he's the one who can do this, and he's been an asset. So how are we going to deal with this gap?
If I may, sir, I cannot think of a better person. When we come to that point, I will probably, the first thing that will come to my mind will be to approach Captain Bo to continue those services at, on a contractual basis or in some other
As
fashion.
needed basis.
Yeah. Okay.
If he would accept.
Any other
But
comments?
we don't have anybody else. Is he the only?
I used to share that with him many years ago when I was with the city, but he has taken it to a different level. So I'm no match for him. He's our top guy locally.
Okay. I just want to make sure that there's a plan in place, and hopefully it includes him.
Yes.
With
sir.
all his institutional knowledge that he has gained over the years.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Any other comments or questions? All right, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Go ahead and go down, Mr. Burgess, any business? Mr. Maldonado?
No business tonight.
Mr. Shelley?
None.
Mr. Williams?
Nothing. No, no, nothing.
And Ms. Lobos?
Nothing at this time.
All right, thank you. The last, I should have said this before, but the last item on your agenda, the mutual aid agreement was scratched, so I apologize if you didn't know that. And by the way, I was late because I had a flat tire, and Merv wasn't home, and AAA didn't come, and I didn't know what to do, and everybody got there at the same time, so I got here. But anyway, thank you very much. Do I need a motion to adjourn? Mr. Burgess, and well, everybody seconds. Mr. Maldonado, Mr. Shelley. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.